Welcome to C programming. Let's start by understanding the basic structure every C program follows. At its core, a C program is made up of preprocessor commands, functions, variables, statements, expressions, and comments. Each of these elements has a specific role in how your code works and is understood. Let's break these down, starting with preprocessor commands. These lines, beginning with a hash symbol, tell the compiler to include or process something before actual compilation. For example, hash include adds the math library, letting you use functions like sqrt for square roots. Preprocessor commands often include header files, special files ending with AH that contain reusable code and definitions. Header files are called so because they appear at the top or head of your program. They have AH extension, are installed with your IDE, and act as libraries to expand your program's capabilities. Here's what a basic C program looks like. You declare header files at the top, define the main function, use curly braces to mark where your program starts and ends, and write statements inside. C ignores empty lines and extra spaces, so you can format your code for readability. The smallest building blocks in C are called tokens. These include keywords, identifiers, constants, string literals, and symbols. Keywords are reserved words with special meaning, like return, auto, if, and default. Your IDE usually highlights them for you. Identifiers are names you give to variables, functions, or anything you define. They are case-sensitive. Code, and code are all different. Identifiers can't start with numbers, can't have special symbols or spaces, and should be logical and descriptive. Constants are fixed values that don't change while your program runs, unlike variables. We'll explore them in detail soon. String literals are sequences of characters in double quotes like "Hello World," often used in functions like printf. This is just the beginning. We'll dive deeper into each of these concepts in the chapters ahead. Preprocessor commands are commands which tell our program that before its execution, it must include the file name mentioned in it, because we are using some of the commands or codes from this file. They add functionalities to a program. One example could be #include math.h. We include math.h to be able to use some special functions like power and absolute. #include filename.h is how we include them into our programs. Detailed explanations of everything else in the structure will follow in the later part of the tutorial. So, header files are basically a collection of predefined or built-in functions that have already been developed. They're always declared at the top of the program, and that's why we call them header files. You can recognize a header file by its extension, which is .h. Also, these files get installed when you install the IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. They store functions according to their categories, and that's why they're also called libraries. Alright, let's talk about the syntax. The example below shows how a basic C program is actually written. First, you have the declaration of the header file. This is just the name of the header files whose functions you're planning to use. Next is main, which is called the main function, and it stores the execution of your program. Then, you have an opening curly brace, which marks the start of the program. Inside those braces, you write your program statements. Finally, you close with another curly brace, and that marks the end of the program. Here, the first line is a preprocessor command, and it includes a header file called stadio.h. Oh, and C just ignores empty lines and spaces, so you don't have to worry about those at all. So, there is a main function which should always be there. A C program is made up of different tokens combined. These tokens include keywords, identifiers, constants, string literals, and symbols. Keywords. Keywords are reserved words that cannot be used elsewhere in the program for naming a variable or a function. They have a specific function or task, and they are solely used for that. Their functionalities are predefined. One such example of a keyword could be return, which is used to build return statements for functions. Other examples are auto, if, default, and so on. Whenever we write any keyword in an IDE, their color slightly changes and, it looks different from other variables or functions. For example, in Turbo C, all keywords turn into white color. Identifiers are names given to variables or functions to differentiate them from one another. Their definitions are solely based on our choice, but there are a few rules that we have to follow while naming identifiers. One such rule says that the name cannot contain special symbols such as at, dash, asterisk, less than, and so on. C is a case-sensitive language, so an identifier containing a capital letter and another one containing a small letter in the same place will be different. For example, the three words code, code, and code can be used as three different identifiers. Rules for naming identifiers. One should not name any identifier starting with a numeric value or symbol. It should start only with an underscore or alphabet. They should not contain spaces. Giving logical names is recommended as per our program. Constants are very similar to a variable, and they can also be of any data type. The only difference between a constant and a variable is that a constant's value never changes. We will see constants in more detail in the upcoming tutorial. String literals, or string constants, are a sequence of characters enclosed in double quotation marks. For example, this is a string literal, is a string literal. C method printf utilizes the same to format the output.